Welcome everybody to the DC New 52 review. I want to thank you for tuning into this episode. I am your host, Paulie DC, and let's get into another one of these things. Today, I will review Aquaman Vol.1. It was titled The Trench, and it was written by Geoff with art by Ivan Reis and Joe Prado, and the first 6 issues were released between November 2011 to April of 2012. Aquaman Arthur Curry first arrived in More Fun Comics number 73, November 1941 by Mort Weisinger and Paul Norris. Now, I will say this to begin with. Unlike Green Lantern, another title that Geoff Johns worked on being basically unchanged for the New 52, Aquaman's history was totally tossed. He's got no children, his relationship to longtime love Mira, who shared the first comic book wedding with him ever, is fairly new, and he's not generally accepted on land or in the Kingdom of Atlantis, where his mother is from, all due to his father being human. Even with Arthur going on to be a founding Justice League member, he's always been ridiculed as a less serious hero, which multiple writers tried to rectify, and I was glad to see that this event gave him a deserved spotlight. Issue number 1 begins a 4-part story that moves quicker than a shark with a fresh scent of blood, with us first seeing some aquatic monsters crawling out of an Atlantic trench. Next, Aquaman is seen in Boston since he's based in Massachusetts, showing us his strength and durability while getting a lack of appreciation from local cops as he thwarts a crew of thieves. You don't need to be a DC fan or even a comic book reader to know that Aquaman is constantly on the ass end of many jokes. The following scene, aside from it featuring Aquaman having fish for dinner, betrayal, many questions are answered, like how he actually employs marine life to assist him, the way his life is funded via lost treasure, which opens up certain storylines, how his parents came from different worlds but most of his life has been on land, and of course an example of people treating him like crap. I guess it's harder for casual fans to make fun of him when the writer is already doing that. Later that night, in Amnesty Bay, the town that Arthur lives in, there's a brief memory of his dad, Tom Curry, giving him an Uncle Ben-like talk about responsibility. Yes, I make that reference a lot, but what are you gonna do? Right before he meets up with one of the best versions of his partner, Mira. Seriously, she got great respect, and sometimes even arguably overshadowed Aquaman. Known simply by that first name, Mira arrived in September 1963's Aquaman number 11 by Jack Miller and Nick Cardy. No, I'm not going to make any shitty Amber Heard references. I'm better than that. Here, the couple talks about Arthur's first interaction with Atlanteans who actually tried to kill him because he wasn't a pureblood, which then spiraled into him going to Atlantis to help that kingdom in a time of need, but ultimately decided to stay on the surface mainly as a Justice League member, a choice he's recently chosen to stand on even though Aquaman is needed beneath the water. In the last pages, some local fishermen are becoming victims of the monsters seen at the beginning, later called the Trench. Issue number 2 continues right from the previous one as the attack on the fishermen concludes with them getting paralyzing saliva spat on them, gross, and then being eaten by the Trench, which is all quickly noticed a bit later on by a young boy who waits on some docks for his dad's return. Yeesh. Over in Arthur and Mira's place, it is hinted that the two have not been together too long as of this time, but then they are interrupted by a freaked out cop named Wilson, pretending to be a sheriff from the town where the Trench are heading. He exclaims that he knows Aquaman lives in a lighthouse from the news and has been searching for him to ask for help, which he does immediately after Mira shows off her hydrokinesis abilities, and he gets a jab in at Aquaman's recognizable orange shirt, which he calls scale armor here. It ain't just an orange shirt, alright? Not only did this cop apparently randomly drive from lighthouse to lighthouse shouting for Aquaman, wildly thin to begin with, but he could have been working with a villain or been one in disguise, and both of our main characters just revealed their identities to him. Once in Beach Rock, the whole waterfront is crawling with various government groups, bringing Wilson's sheriff charade to an end when Aquaman and Mira arrive to meet the real one, who, surprise surprise, tells them to go away. Instead, the two start to look around a bit while Arthur tries reaching out to any marine life, with nothing being found coming as quite a surprise to him. Moments later, some divers recover a sort of glowing sea cocoon, and that winds up attracting a huge group of the trench appearing from beneath the water, and it seems by now that all they really want is food in any form they can get it. Mira and Aquaman fight them off, doing whatever they can to protect everyone, but then a big alpha member jumps in, snatching Arthur's special trident like a bully taking his lunch money. Number 3 starts with a gorgeous opening page featuring a young Arthur being told about his mother Atlana by his dad, and how the ocean is a vast place filled with many unknown things in it, including humanoid, eel, shark, anglerfish, seal monsters, who are still attacking Aquaman, and as he tries to use his fish communication ability on the Alpha one, the response is him getting viciously chomped. So much for your friggin' scale mail. Mira is also showing that she's quite the warrior gal herself, and after Aquaman has a bit of a Predator versus Schwarzenegger moment with him and the Alpha Trench asking each other, "What the hell are you?" we see that because of their sheer numbers and the main duo being fought off, the Trench are able to start grabbing people and proceed to take them beneath the water. With no clue as to what they even just fought, Arthur and Mira turn to the cocoon found, which a still alive dog comes out of. Thank goodness, as long as the dogs are safe, we're good. I do also want to mention here that the way all the law enforcement guys were crapping on Arthur in this scene was when the disrespect thing for the character went a tad beyond necessary. I know it's almost obligatory, but in the New 52 he's super strong and hard to harm. His Atlantean roots are fascinating. He's got an attractive partner and had major contributions in the Justice League's inception. What exactly is there to make fun of here? I don't know, and I don't care. Moving along, Mira and Aquaman next visit the home of original character Stephen Shin, a marine biologist and old friend to Tom Curry, who actually helped mentor Arthur. Their relationship now appears to be among rougher tides though, but that doesn't stop him and Mira from asking for assistance in analyzing one of the deceased and recovered trench creatures from the earlier encounter. Before Shin does anything though, he comments on Aquaman's trident being trouble and that someone will be coming to look for it. He then goes on to discover a few things about the trench and obviously wants to keep it, claiming it will gain him his reputation back, but Arthur says hell no, taking it away with Mira while Steven begs and screams to be told where Atlantis is. Okay. Our Aqua duo then dive deep down into the Atlantic Ocean, ready to find where the rest of the trench are, and as the two swim further into the dark discussing what to do, it truly comes off as foreboding with a sense of worry for these two, which is often hard to do in a superhero comic. Number 4 rounds out this beginning storyline with Mira and Aquaman having traveled deep beneath the surface, and after finally finding the trench's lair, the first thing they come across once entering inside is a centuries-old Atlantean submarine craft. A bit of an uneasy moment follows this as all the bioluminescent fish Aquaman is employing to help them see take off due to survival instincts overriding his commands, which has never been seen before. Upon further inspection, the two discover that the trench spawn are dying off, while Mira puts out suggestions that they must be sealed off from the world. This, along with a couple other comments like last issue saying she'd be happy to educate humans into respecting Arthur, they were clear indicators that she's no Girl Scout hero. They then seem to locate the throne room, and if you thought some female spider species outgrew the males, this Trench Queen is on some 8-legged freak stuff. It's not long before the two notice tons more of the cocoons in the area, and because it takes even less time for them to be spotted, they go full assault mode, jetting directly into the wall of cocoons holding potential victims, removing an entire piece of it. Arthur then tells Mira to press on while he tries to fend off the Ferenzine trench, with him having to make an extremely hard call as the hyper-pissed queen comes out, try to start a cave-in with the assistance of a volcanic vent beneath the area. With options very limited, he gets into action, and this move causes an eruption that consumes the queen, followed by him closing the trench inside the crater with a massive piece of broken off rock. This was a really well put together sequence with the earlier mention of underwater volcano activity, so it didn't appear out of nowhere, and even though in the dark depths you knew the way things were progressing clearly. The last scenes are of people being recovered out of the cocoons, Aquaman getting some appreciation from a little kid, better than nothing I suppose, and later that night, Mira is telling Arthur to accept the choices he had to make, just before being interrupted by Cop Wilson. This guy really likes to show up seconds before our main couple are about to do you know what. He's there this time to ask if they want the dog rescued from earlier, since he's got no owner now, so they decide to take him. Issue number 5 kicks off with Aquaman falling straight from the sky, landing smack in the middle of a desert with a large metal shard lodged in his leg, which he then removes in rather cringeworthy manner, and after about maybe 100 feet, he passes out. How did he get in this predicament? Let's find out, shall we? 12 hours earlier, Arthur was contacted by U.S. military man Commander Clay while in bed with Mira. This man cannot catch a break. He gets informed that the government found some kind of Atlantean glyph similar to the A-shaped one on his belt lodged in one of the trench's cocoons, and when studied it began to emit deafening sound waves. Aquaman goes to meet with Clay, and while inspecting the artifact, he mentions that he has enhanced hearing, probably something that won't be remembered later in the series. But anyway, the inspection can't go on long because suddenly the facility is attacked by an armored squad of soldiers in a high-tech aircraft that Aquaman has to hitch a ride on after the soldiers assault the place and steal the glyph. He pries open the airship like a tuna can with his trident, and after punching one soldier, it is quickly realized that they are Atlantean, but no follow-up yet because the depressurization and gunfire equal a massive explosion, killing everyone but Aquaman, who is then blown into the desert. He wakes up not long after to a mirage/hallucination of his father Tom, who pretty much tells him he's lost and useless. Wow. Aquaman then is able to use his special hearing, since it's convenient this issue, to locate the crashed Atlantean aircraft wherein he finds the glyph, and now knows for some reason to use water to activate it, causing a hologram of an army general from Atlantis saying that they tracked an enemy to the trench, resulting in them being found and killed by the creatures within. Things then wrap up with Arthur having to be found and rescued by the US Navy, which makes some rounds on the internet, resulting in much ridicule. Seriously? There wasn't any other way? No one else in the Justice League needs the government to save them. Brutal, man. Issue number 6 concludes this opening volume, and it's all about Mira. Arthur was seen discovering a note saying that she went to town for dog supplies, and that's where things pick up as she's checking out a local shop owned by some sleazebag who needs a big-time PR meeting. This Mr. Rovner goes from harassing a stock girl named Jennifer to groping Mira, which is a massive mistake and gains him a broken arm, but this catches the attention of some security guy who now tries to arrest Mira, much to her annoyance, so she decides to show off some of her powers that scares the hell out of the residents in the area, still continuing to call her Aquawoman like everyone else has thus far. You'd think after saving an entire town minutes away, people would at least know her name. Like, damn, even she gets disrespected similar to Arthur. Anyhow, before things get really ugly, some chatter of a serious domestic dispute is overheard by Mira from a police radio since the cops have now shown up, so she lets them arrest her, thinking that she'll be brought to that scene while cuffed in the cruiser, which actually happens. Never seen that in any of the true crime shows I've watched, but alright. The situation is an escaped wife killer named Ryan Slater has his daughter hostage now and is ready to kill her too. Yikes. Mira wastes no time breaking free and confronting him, but because he's not listening to reason, how do I say this without getting in trouble? She begins to remove all the fluids from his body. This then subdues him and nearly puts him down, but the daughter stops Mira, leaving her confused as she takes off. We also got a flashback to 4 years ago featuring Mira being trained by her father to kill Aquaman, which really surprised me due to knowing little about the character's lore and history. This memory lingers large as Mira sits on the shore, now tearfully remembering the day she told her father that Aquaman is no threat to them and that she fell in love with him, which got her deemed a traitor. That's actually a really sad but really good plotline. Mira is then surprised by the girl from the store, Jennifer, who kindly provides her with dog food and supplies for Aquadog. After returning home, Mira is quickly told by Arthur that they need to go to see Stephen Shin because he knows how Atlantis sank. Dun dun dun. Alright. Getting into the plot first, it was very clear that the creative team here wanted Aquaman to be a standout hero among the New 52, and it definitely seemed to have worked, as this early setup allowed the title to be one of the only few to make it to 52 issues in the entire event. This opening really did things right, having a minor supporting cast allowing the focus to stay on Mira and Arthur. Forget about other DC relationships. These two are a true power couple. Also, Mira's backstory sometimes came off even more interesting than Aquaman's, and she should have had backup stories included. The Trench were also a great opening foe. They were designed uniquely and creepy, along with having mysterious ties to Atlantis, while Stephen Shin started as a big question mark that had you wondering from the first time you saw him. The art, on the other hand, is quite stunning. The underwater scenes are dark and perturbing, but are still ripe with detail, while the above scenes are bright, balanced, and bold, which is also a great way to describe the designs for Mira and Arthur. Their hair, facial features, physiques, it's all done so well. The two gentlemen listed on the cover, plus Reis, were like the three musketeers in this event. Their art was popping up everywhere. Wrapping up with dialogue, Mr. Johns always turned in consistently excellent scripts, even though he was juggling 2 other major series at this point. The interactions here are clever and straightforward, with comedic notes peppered throughout. One noticeable thing is there's no internal narration from Aquaman or Mira, which is a bit refreshing, makes the storyline feel more adventurous in leaving those thoughts up to the reader. If there was just one thing I wish to have seen early was continuation and involvement with every other title mixed together, and since there was hardly any Justice League or any other characters from elsewhere being touched on here, I thought I'd mention this now. Maybe one of the secret groups among the event went to grab a trench carcass or were spying on Mira for a contingency plan. I really thought that if absolutely everything was tied together, spanning to all corners with all the players, it would have been epic. A lot of work, yes, but it could have set the stage for so much. I will leave you with those thoughts though, and if you've watched until the end here, I want to personally thank you for that, and to please like, share, and subscribe. Please follow me on all my social media platforms, and to please join me next time for more DC New 52 content.